Good afternoon, this is Anita Kéri from the Association for Creative Education, and today we are having a podcast about fast fashion. With me here I have Darin Malikova from Kyrgyzstan, who is a first-year student at the University of Szeged, Faculty of Economics and Business Administration, and Balázs Beszédes, who is a third-year high school student from Hungary, from the Deák Ferenc Bilingual High School. Today we are going to talk about the effects of fast fashion, and we are going to talk about and answer questions that are not so conventional. So my first question to you guys is, what was the scary fact or realization about fast fashion industry that made you passionate about ethical and sustainable fashion? What do you think, Darin?
Thank you. For me, it wasn't necessarily a certain fact, more a realization that fashion trends were changing faster than ever before. Being 15, I thought it was normal to buy fast fashion weekly because that's what I saw influencers doing all over social media. And it led me to believe that if I wasn't buying new cheap clothing, I wouldn't fit in and be trendy. And through gaining a strong understanding of the environmental and ethical impacts of the fast fashion industry, and the fact that it is the second biggest polluting industry in the world, I stepped back and instead focused on my personal style and what I genuinely love wearing. To these days, I haven't bought new clothing in many months, and instead buy majority of my clothing secondhand. I have learned what colors and style I love and how to pick pieces I will wear for a long time. And I'm proud to wear what I own and be an outfit repeater. And now when I see a massive fast fashion haul on my social medias, I click not interested and remember why I stay clear from fast fashion and macro trends. It has been a long journey for me, being a fashion lover to a sustainable fashion lover, and I wish every teenager had the opportunities to normalize having a sustainable closet.
Okay, thanks a lot, Darin. I think you're an amazing example of how it could be done. Even if you are a younger generation person, you can still do this. Thanks a lot. Okay, what about you, Balázs? What do you think? What was the scary factor realization about fast fashion industry that made you passionate about ethical and sustainable fashion?
Well, the funny thing is that the way I got into being sustainably, So the way I got into sustainable fashion wasn't inspired by any facts or realizations about fast fashion industry. It was mostly influenced by me not having any money for clothes that fast fashion could have given me.
Mm-hmm.
And since I'm a film major, we talk about a lot of news in school about in the whole world. Mm-hmm. And our media teacher told a lot about the bad side of the fast fashion industry. For example, the slave work of children in really far away countries from us, and this whole plagiarism of design.
Mm-hmm.
And as someone who's into fashion, and I'm also trying to go into being a fashion designer later, it's really bad to just think about people copying others' works. Yeah.
You are now unmuted.
Yes, thanks a lot. Thank you. And I think it also tells a lot about what the situation is nowadays with youngsters, is that we don't think about also money is a huge issue when buying new clothes, and it could be the way how we can change or the way how we can get closer to the youth. Okay, thanks a lot, guys. And do you think that it's okay to say that we buy fast fashion knowing that it has so many bad traits? Because you mentioned child labor. And if we still do, and if we buy fast fashion, to what extent is it okay or acceptable to buy it? What do you think, Balázs, about this?
Well, I'm kind of like the fashionista of my friend group, and I always give a lot of advice, like fashion advice to them. And I've always said that, a good wardrobe starts out with the absolute basics. And speaking from personal experience, you can't really put together like a basic wardrobe from thrift stores. Because, a lot of people go thrifting to find unique pieces. And, a basic wardrobe consists of like just plain colored stuff. And yeah. So I do think that buying basics from fast fashion is acceptable because you can't really work with your wardrobe unless you have like the basics. And for me also, to look good, your clothes have to fit. And when it comes to me, I am extremely picky about pants. I was never able to find pants that fit me in the thrift stores because, I'm moderately tall. My waist is kind of skinny, and I also want them to be high-waisted. So, yeah, I have really specific things about pants that they are really hard to find in thrift stores. So, yeah, I do think that getting basics from fast fashion is all right.
Thanks a lot, Balázs. And this also shows that for some extent we might agree with buying at least some parts of fast fashion, which probably otherwise we would, get rid of even, quickly because these are basic things that we use. Okay, what about you, Darin? What do you think?
I think that actually I always discuss this kind of problem with my friends, and I know that sometimes when it's your first time just going on the way to the to be sustainable, not buying fast fashion clothes, etc. And I think that it is okay to buy fast fashion, even though it is a bit traded. But it is okay because if you want to okay, sorry.
It's okay.
I just lost my thought. So, if we want to eliminate fast fashion, sometimes, of course, sometimes it is okay to buy fast fashion because we don't want people to be ashamed by this issue. When I discuss this problem with my friends, sometimes they are ashamed that they buy things from such brands like Zara, H&M, etc. And when they feel such shame, such feelings, when they do that, it is kind of problematic to get rid of the fast fashion buying. Don't you think so? So I think it is okay to buy it, but still, if you're trying to go to the way to be sustainable, it's totally fine.
Thanks a lot, Darin. And I think this also shows it very well that even if we didn't want to go into fast fashion shops, it would be almost impossible, to go without them. We might not have enough alternatives that are presented to us, or either this is all we know, or this is the majority of the clothing brands and companies that we can turn to. And I think it was a very interesting point what you mentioned as well, Darin, that people might be ashamed to go there, but they still do. But at least now they share that they feel ashamed that they buy some clothing items there. Okay, thanks a lot for the insight. Okay, I have another question regarding the prices. So even if it's fast fashion, we have seen that the prices of fast fashion clothing items go up year by year. What do you think? What is the factor behind that? So why is that? Darin, what do you think about this?
Can I just have a few minutes to think about that?
Yes,
Maybe
sure.
Balázs wants to answer first.
It's okay. It's perfectly fine. Okay. Balázs, do you have an answer for this?
Well, this is a really interesting question for me because it's a mystery to me as well. I never really understood because, when I was first introduced to fast fashion, I remember it being available for everybody. It was really affordable. But now when I go into like H&M and want to buy a pair of pants, I don't think I want to spend like 10,000 forints on a pair of pants. So yeah, it's a big mystery to me as well. One of my theories is that I think it's connected with the current trends, because, they are pumping out a lot of different designs and clothes every season, and they are all trendy. So I do think that it's just capitalism and trends combining. I'm not really sure though.
Yes, thanks a lot. And exactly the same thought that I had, that the price is going up because they would like to make even higher revenues and more profit. Maybe this could be the reason for that. Yes. Okay, and this way I think we can jump to the next question, which is quite connected to this, is that can we say that companies, of course, they aim for profit. So can we say that the profitability of a business and the sustainability of a business coexist? Do you think that there is a way for them to coexist?
I think there is a way. I do believe that, there are a lot of brands. I mean, there aren't a lot, but there are a few brands I know of that use recycled materials. And I think that is a really good way of being sustainable. Because, with that, they are reducing their waste by a lot. But, when it comes to fast fashion, I don't think that it will ever be sustainable because, they're only going for profit.
Thanks a lot, Balázs. Darin, what do you think about this? What do you think? Can a business be sustainable and at the same time still making profit?
I think maybe it's better for me to talk about if consumerism ever be sustainable, and I think that according to conscious consumerism, every purchase you make is a moral act and an opportunity to vote with the money for the world you want to see. And usually we're told that if we don't like what a company is doing, we should stop by their products and force them to change. And we believe that if if we give consumers transparency and information, they'll make the right choice. But sadly, this is not the way capitalism is set up to work. And the problem is, I think, that even though we want to make the right choices, it's often too little and too late. For example, as I said before, friends are always asking me where to take their old clothes so that they are either effectively recycled or make it into the hands of people who need them. And what I usually answer them is it doesn't matter where you take them. It will always end up in the exact same overloaded waste stream, which may or may not eventually dump in Haiti, for example. And this isn't someone's fault for trying to do the right thing. I think it's the fault of the relentless trend cycle of fast fashion, which is flooding the secondhand market with a lot of clothes that people don't want at any price.
Yes, thanks a lot, Darin, for this insight. And I think it was a perfect answer for both the question whether it can be possible to be sustainable and profitable at the same time, because we have seen some companies actually aiming for profit, but still they're trying to create sustainable fashion. So there are some initiatives, at least for that. We will see if on the long run, these smaller companies, smaller initiatives can actually, surface and maybe overcome the huge tycoons, clothing industry tycoons of the fast fashion world. Okay. And now turning to the generations, you are both part of the very, very young Generation Z. What do you think? Do you think that Generation Z is the generation that buys the most fast fashion items? Or if not, then what other generations do that? What do you think, Balázs?
Well, I do think that, being sustainable fashion-wise is like a small niche of like Generation Z. So I believe that a lot of Generation Z buy fast fashion still. But also, I don't think that like millennials or even like the previous generations are aware of like the bad sides of fast fashion and like are educated in this field. So I do believe that a lot of older people still buy fast fashion because it's really available for them. And I just don't think that they are educated enough. And I think it's our job, like that small part of Z generation who think that, fashion should be sustainable, to educate them on this. But, it's also weird because I know a few older people who buy secondhand clothing. So, yeah, I do think that it depends on the person and the, education they have about this topic.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And I think that the conclusion you have just made is the key, is that being educated, knowing about these issues even can influence, how you behave, how or what kind of shops you visit. Okay, and what about you, Darin? What do you think?
I think that I think it's kind of usually when I talk to my friends, and I know that it's really hard to go to pass the shops where we can find beautiful clothes. So I think it's okay that even though the Z generation wants sustainability, and despite that, fast fashion is still growing, and it's natural to have an edited and behavior disconnect, and it's I think if I remember correctly, it's a well-studied human phenomenon, and until fast fashion retailers are pretty much forced to put warnings on their websites regarding their workplace conditions and environmental impact. This behavior is unlikely to change. And that's why I think so. Government regulations are so important.
Okay, yes, thanks a lot. And basically, you also touched upon our final topic. But before we get there, like whose responsibility it is to stop it, there is also an interesting question whether slow fashion, which is basically the antithesis or the opposite of fast fashion, so slow fashion, why is it considered to be kind of lame and is only associated with poor people? What do you think? What is the reason for that? Yeah, if you would like to, Balázs, you can start.
Well, I do think that, for the longest time, it has been considered as lame. And, I know a few people who was the target of bullying just because they couldn't afford to buy fast fashion because, tying back to one of the previous answers, the prices are going. So, yeah, I do think that, for the longest time, there has been like a prejudice against people who buy slow fashion because I was really young in the 2000s, but, fashion was really big back then. It still is right now, but, designer labels were almost everywhere and was everything in the early 2000s and 2010. So yeah, I think that's one of the main reasons why it's associated with poor people. But right now, I do think that it's all just about people not being educated on this and just being ignorant and having no communication skills, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thanks a lot for your insight. And it's very shocking to hear that people are actually the target of bullying because they were actually, not available for them. It wasn't available for them, or they couldn't afford these clothes. But at the same time, they were unconsciously doing something for the environment with this methodology. So probably the task of the new generation is to make slow fashion cool so that people won't get bullied at all, but they would be rather praised for this kind of consumer behavior itself. So thanks a lot for your insight. What about you, Darin? What do you think?
Can I answer this question? From the perspective of my home country?
Of course, sure. I will be interested to hear about that.
Thank you. And I would rather answer this question that in my country, it is very important to show your prosperity and abundance, maybe. That's why if you go to secondhand for shopping, it shows that you are kind of poor. You don't have enough money to buy new things. And usually people feel ashamed when they go to secondhand shops, or they just get things, new clothes. Clothes from someone, and actually, yeah, this is it. And I think nowadays it is still a problem. It is we have that kind in our nationality. It's a characteristic of our nationality. I think it is very important. It was historically made. I think that we really have to show our prosperity through the fashion, through the clothes, through showing off our apartments, houses, etc.
Okay, thanks a lot, Darin. And I think that in a sense, we are quite similar to your country, Kyrgyzstan, because here as well, as Balázs mentioned, and according to my own experience, there are very few number of people who think that going to a second-hand shop is cool, is trendy, and is sustainable. So the majority of people, consumers, they only know about fast fashion and the opportunities that they have there and the sale periods and so on. So thanks a lot for the insight. And my final question to you is about responsibility over fast fashion. What do you think? Whose responsibility is it to fix fast fashion? I mean, is it possible at all? Is it the responsibility of brands, consumers, or the government itself? So, what do you think about this, Darin?
Usually, when I ask people about that, just to know their opinion, usually I hear the answers like, it is a responsibility of brands, it is responsibility of fashion industry to be sustainable, and also I hear the answer that it is a responsibility of government to control this, and of course it is, but also I think that it is a direct responsibility of consumers too. So my answer is each individual is responsible for being sustainable. We all have to be a part of the process, not just the government or industry by themselves.
Okay. Yes. Thanks a lot, Darin, for the answer. And I think truth lies in it that there is not one single person who is responsible, but this is rather like a collective responsibility. Okay. What about you, Balázs? What do you think?
Well, I think that all three parties should be involved in fixing it because, brands, of course, I think they need to work a lot on being sustainable. But also when it comes to consumers, I think it's their responsibility to be educated or to get educated about this topic. But also, this is the part where the government comes in. Because, if they were to talk about these topics in school, I think a lot more consumers would be aware of the bad sides of this. So I think that all three parties should just come together and work on this. Like I said, brands working on becoming more sustainable, consumers educating themselves, and the government trying to educate the consumer. And also, if the government could put some regulations in place to force brands to be more sustainable, that would be great as well.
Yes, thanks a lot. I definitely agree and like to reflect as rather this is a collective responsibility of all people, and what you mentioned is education is the key, because those people who know about the possibilities, alternatives to fast fashion, or even the harmful effects, they would at least have the choice. So sometimes choice can only be made when you are educated, when you know of a certain problem or a certain issue. Well, thank you very much for your insights from the side of Kyrgyzstan and also from the Hungarian side, and from talking from the Generation Z, so the young generations. I think your insight was very thoughtful. And thank you for listening, and see you in our next podcast. Thank you very much for listening to us, and goodbye.